The doctors had a name for what happened to Lily Morgan after the accident: selective mutism. But to her mother, Sarah, it was simply heartbreak wrapped in silence. It had been 43 days since Lily had spoken a single word. 43 days since the crash that took her father's life and left Lily physically healed but emotionally shattered. "Lily, honey, time for breakfast," Sarah called, her voice carrying up the stairs of their new home, a modest farmhouse on the outskirts of Oak Ridge, Colorado. The move from Chicago had been necessary. Too many memories haunted their old apartment, too many well-meaning neighbors whose pity felt suffocating. No response came from upstairs, but Sarah hadn't expected one. The sound of soft footsteps was all the acknowledgement she would receive. Lily appeared in the doorway moments later, her once bright blue eyes now dull and distant. At 12 years old, she seemed to carry the weight of someone much older, her shoulders slightly hunched, her movements deliberate and cautious. "I made pancakes," Sarah said, forcing cheerfulness into her voice. "Your favorite." Lily sat at the kitchen table, her gaze fixed on the scratched wooden surface. Her fingers traced invisible patterns as Sarah placed a plate in front of her. Outside, the spring morning was coming alive with birdsong and the gentle rustling of leaves. But inside, the silence remained unbroken except for the scrape of utensils and Sarah's occasional one-sided comments. Dr. Harrison, the child psychologist they'd been seeing since the move, had assured Sarah that Lily would speak when she was ready. "Trauma affects children differently," he'd explained during their last session. "She's processing her grief in her own way." But understanding didn't make the silence any easier to bear. After breakfast, Sarah cleared the dishes, glancing at the kitchen clock. "Ms. Peterson will be here in about 15 minutes for your homeschooling," she reminded Lily. "I've got to head to work, but I'll be back by 4. The new job at the local veterinary clinic was a blessing. Sarah's nursing skills had transferred well enough, and Dr. Chun had been understanding about her need for flexible hours. It wasn't what she had envisioned for their lives, but nothing had been since James died. Lily nodded once, the only indication that she had heard. Sarah knelt beside her daughter's chair, brushing a strand of auburn hair from Lily's face. "I love you to the moon and back," she whispered, their old saying from happier times. For just a moment, something flickered in Lily's eyes, a brief spark of the vibrant girl who once couldn't stop talking about horses and stars and everything in between. Then it was gone, replaced by the now familiar emptiness. As Sarah drove to work, she couldn't shake the heaviness in her chest. They had moved to this rural town hoping that the open spaces and fresh air might help Lily heal. So far, the change of scenery had done little to break through the wall her daughter had built around herself. The veterinary clinic was small but busy, serving the surrounding farms and ranches. Today, Sarah was assisting with routine checkups, vaccinations for a litter of border collie puppies, dental work for an elderly tabby cat, antibiotics for a goat with an infected hoof. "How's Lily doing?" Dr. Chin asked during a brief lull between appointments. The petite woman had quickly become more than just an employer. Her genuine concern for Sarah's situation had made her a friend in this new place where they knew almost no one. "The same," Sarah replied, organizing supplies. "I keep hoping for some breakthrough, but..." Dr. Chin squeezed her shoulder gently. "Sometimes healing doesn't announce itself. It whispers." The afternoon brought an unexpected emergency, a call from the Henderson ranch about an injured horse. Dr. Chin asked Sarah to assist, and 20 minutes later, they were pulling up to a sprawling property with fenced paddocks and a large red barn. "What happened?" Dr. Chin asked as Mr. Henderson, a weathered man in his 60s, led them toward the barn. "Found him caught in the fence line along the north property," Henderson explained. "Must have been a mountain lion or something that spooked him. He's cut up pretty bad, especially his right leg." Inside the dimly lit barn, a magnificent chestnut quarter horse lay on a bed of straw, his breathing labored, his coat slick with sweat. One leg was wrapped in a makeshift bandage, already soaked through with blood. "This is Storm," Henderson said, his voice softening. "Best cutting horse I ever trained, but after this..." He shook his head, not finishing the thought. As Dr. Chun began her examination, Sarah knelt beside the horse's head, stroking his neck and speaking softly to keep him calm. Storm's dark eyes watched her, filled with pain and something else, a quiet dignity that struck her deeply. Sarah couldn't help thinking about Lily as she helped treat the wounded animal. Both broken in their own ways, both silent in their suffering. As they worked to clean and stitch the deep gashes, Sarah found herself whispering to Storm, "You're going to be okay. You're stronger than you know." She wondered if anyone could say the same for her daughter. "I'm not sure he's going to make it," Mr. Henderson said, his voice heavy with resignation as he stood in the doorway of the barn 3 days later. Sarah watched as Dr. Chin finished changing Storm's bandages, the horse's once powerful body now thin and trembling with fever. "He's fighting," Dr. Chin replied, her small hands working with practiced efficiency. "The infection is stubborn, but we're seeing some improvement in the deeper wounds." Sarah knew what remained unspoken. Storm might survive, but his leg would never fully heal. A cutting horse that couldn't cut wasn't worth much to a rancher like Henderson, regardless of how attached he might be. "I can't justify the expense much longer," Henderson said, shaking his head. "I've got a business to run." The words hung in the air like a sentence. Sarah felt a familiar tightness in her chest, the same she experienced when well-meaning doctors had suggested institutional options for Lily when her silence persisted. As if broken things should be hidden away. Dr. Chin gathered her supplies. "Give it one more week. If he doesn't show significant improvement by then..." She left the rest unsaid. Henderson nodded curtly before walking away, boots crunching on the gravel outside. "He'll put him down," Sarah whispered once he was out of earshot. "It's his horse," Dr. Chin reminded her gently. "And Storm's in pain." Sarah knelt beside the chestnut gelding, stroking his damp neck. His dark eyes followed her, alert despite his weakness. "It just doesn't seem fair." On the drive back to the clinic, Sarah couldn't shake the image of those eyes, so aware, so present, despite the broken body they belonged to. A crazy idea began forming in her mind, taking shape with each passing mile. When she picked up Lily from Ms. Peterson's that afternoon, Sarah made an impulsive decision. Instead of turning toward home, she drove to the Henderson ranch. "I want to show you something," she told Lily, who gazed out the window with the detached expression that had become her norm. The barn was quiet when they arrived, golden afternoon, light filtering through dust motes and cracks in the old wooden walls. Sarah led Lily to Storm's stall, where the horse lay on his side, his breathing labored but steady. "This is Storm," Sarah said, kneeling beside Lily outside the stall door. "He was hurt badly a few days ago. Dr. Chun and I have been helping him." Lily stared at the wounded animal, her expression unchanged. "He's having a hard time," Sarah continued. I thought maybe you could sit with him for a while. Sometimes company helps, even when there are no words." Sarah held her breath, waiting for Lily to turn away or give some sign of refusal. Instead, her daughter surprised her by slowly sitting down on the straw-covered floor, her back against the stall door, her eyes fixed on Storm. Taking this as acceptance, Sarah moved to a bench nearby, giving Lily space while remaining close enough to intervene if necessary. She pretended to review notes from work, but her attention remained on her daughter and the injured horse. Time passed in the quiet barn, marked only by Storm's breathing and the occasional soft nickering of other horses in nearby stalls. Lily hadn't moved, but Sarah noticed something different in her posture, a slight leaning forward, an attentiveness that had been absent for weeks. After nearly an hour, Sarah stood. "We should go home, sweetheart. We can come back tomorrow if you'd like." To her astonishment, Lily turned and gave a small, almost imperceptible NOD.IT was the first voluntary response Sarah had seen since the accident. The next day after school, Lily stood by the front door, backpack still on, clearly waiting. Sarah felt a flutter of hope as she grabbed her keys without a word. The visits to Storm's stall became their new routine. Each day, Lily would sit silently by the horse, sometimes for 15 minutes, sometimes for over an hour. Sarah noticed subtle changes, how Lily's body gradually relaxed, how she eventually began to extend her hand towards Storm's nose, how the horse would stretch his neck despite obvious pain to meet her touched. On the 5th day, Sarah arrived at the clinic to find Dr. Chun engaged in an intense conversation with Mr. Henderson. "It's been a week," Henderson was saying. "The infection is still there, and even if he recovers, he'll never work again." Dr. Chun caught Sarah's eye, her expression grim. "I understand your position, but I'll make arrangements for tomorrow morning," Henderson interrupted. "It's the humane thing to do." Sarah felt the floor drop beneath her. Tomorrow. Storm would be gone tomorrow. She thought of Lily, sitting faithfully beside the horse each afternoon, the tiny spark that seemed to be returning to her eyes. "Mr. Henderson," Sarah heard herself say, stepping forward. What if someone else took responsibility for Storm, covered his medical expenses, his care? Henderson turned, eyebrows raised. "You offering to buy an injured horse, Ms. Morgan?" "I'm offering to give him a second chance," Sarah replied, her heart racing. "And I think he might be giving my daughter one too." Dr. Chin's eyes widened in surprise, but Sarah couldn't stop now. The words tumbled out, describing Lily's visits, the small changes she'd observed, the connection forming between two broken spirits. Henderson listened skeptically. "Ms. Morgan, I appreciate what you're saying, but where would you even keep him? Horses need space, care, expertise. I have a small paddock," a new voice interjected. They turned to see Elaine Peterson, Lily's homeschool teacher, standing in the doorway. "He could recover there. I've raised horses all my life." Sarah stared at Miss Peterson in shock. The older woman gave her a small nod. "Lily mentioned your visits in her writing journal yesterday. First thing she's written with any emotion in weeks." A glimmer of hope sparked in Sarah's chest. Lily had written about Storm. Not spoken, but written. It was something. Henderson looked between the women, his weathered face unreadable. Finally, he sighed. "If you're serious about this, we can discuss terms. But understand what you're taking on. He may never fully recover." Sarah thought about Lily, about the grief that had silenced her, about the long road ahead for both her daughter and this wounded horse. "Sometimes," she said quietly, "recovery doesn't look like going back to who you were before. Sometimes it's about finding a new way forward." Henderson gave her a long look, then nodded. "Come to the house. We'll work out the details." As Sarah followed him, her mind raced with practical concerns. Money, logistics, the sheer improbability of what she was doing. But stronger than these doubts was the image of Lily sitting beside Storm, two silent souls somehow recognizing something in each other that no one else could see. "Mom." The word was barely audible, a whisper so soft Sarah almost missed it. She turned to see Lily standing in the barn doorway, Miss Peterson behind her. The single word hung in the air between them, precious and fragile. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, honey. Can we help him?" Lily asked, her voice rough from disuse. But unmistakably hers. It was the first full sentence she had spoken in 49 days. Moving a severely injured 1,000-pound animal proved more challenging than Sarah had anticipated. The morning after finalizing the paperwork with Henderson, she arrived at the ranch with Dr. Chun and Elaine Peterson to find Storm feverish again, his wounded leg swollen. "This isn't good," Dr. Chun murmured, administering an injection of antibiotics. Moving him now could exacerbate the infection. Sarah felt panic rising in her chest. Henderson had made it clear today was the deadline. If Storm stayed, his fate was sealed. "What if we use Henderson's trailer?" Elaine suggested. It's equipped for injured horses. My paddock is only 15 minutes away. The stress would be minimal. Dr. Chen hesitated, then nodded. If we're doing this, we move slowly. What followed was a painstaking process. It took 4 of them, Sarah, Dr. Chun, Elaine, and one of Henderson's reluctant ranch hands, to coax Storm to his feet. The horse's dark eyes rolled with pain and fear, but somehow he seemed to understand the urgency. With trembling legs, he allowed them to guide him inch by inch into the waiting trailer. Lily watched the entire procedure from a distance, her face tense with worry. When Storm was finally secured, she approached the trailer window and placed her palm against it. "It'll be okay," she whispered, the words so quiet that only Sarah, standing beside her, could hear them. The drive to Elaine's property felt eternal. Sarah followed in her car with Lily, watching the trailer sway gently on the country roads. Her mind raced with doubts. What if this was a mistake? What if Storm didn't survive the move? What if Lily retreated back into silence? But when they arrived, she knew they'd made the right choice. Elaine's small farm was nestled against rolling hills, with a cozy barn and 2 fenced paddocks. The setting sun bathed everything in a golden glow that felt like a good omen. Getting Storm situated in the barn took another hour of careful maneuvering. By the time they finished, the horse was trembling with exhaustion, but something in his demeanor had changed. He seemed calmer here, away from the bustle of Henderson's working ranch. "He can sense it's different," Elaine remarked, hanging a freshwater bucket. "Horses know when a place is about healing, not working." That night, Sarah couldn't pry Lily away from the barn until well after dark. When they finally headed home, her daughter was visibly tired but somehow lighter, as if a weight had shifted. "Do you think he likes it there?" Lily asked during the drive, her voice still raspy from disuse. Sarah's heart leapt at the sound. 2 sentences in one day. "I think he does," she replied, keeping her tone casual despite her inner celebration. "Miss Peterson knows a lot about horses." Lily nodded, staring out the window. "Can we go back tomorrow before school?" "Absolutely." The next morning, Sarah woke Lily 30 minutes earlier than usual. They arrived at Elaine's farm as dawn was breaking, the world still hushed and dewy. To their surprise, Dr. Chen's car was already parked outside the barn. Inside, they found Dr. Chen replacing Storm's bandages, her face drawn with concern. "The infection's spreading," she said without preamble. "I've started him on a stronger antibiotic, but—" Sarah felt Lily tense beside her. "But what?" Dr. Chen sighed. "If this doesn't work, we might need to consider amputation." And for a horse that size, with his history, she didn't need to finish. They all knew what it meant. A 3-legged horse was a death sentence. "No," Lily said suddenly, her voice stronger than Sarah had heard in months. "We can't give up on him." Dr. Chen's expression softened. "We're not giving up, Lily. But I want you to be prepared. This is going to be a difficult road." The next week established a new rhythm for their lives. Sarah arranged with Dr. Chun to work shortened shifts, allowing her to help with Storm's care and still be there for Lily. Every morning before school, they visited the barn. After school, Lily would spend hours sitting with Storm, sometimes reading aloud from her books in a halting voice that grew stronger each day. Elaine became not just Lily's teacher, but a mentor to them both, showing them how to clean Storm's wounds, how to encourage him to stand for short periods, how to recognize signs of improvement or distress. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, both Storm and Lily began to heal. The horse's fever broke on the 4th day. By the end of the week, he was able to stand without trembling for several minutes at a time. The infection receded, leaving raw pink flesh that Dr. Chen assured them would eventually scar over. And Lily, Sarah's silent, withdrawn child, began to speak again. Not constantly, and never to strangers, but in quiet moments with her mother, with Elaine, with Dr. Chen, and most of all, with Storm. "I read that horses can feel your emotions," Lily told Sarah one evening as they drove home. They know when you're scared or sad. I believe that, Sarah replied, glancing at her daughter's profile, illuminated by the dashboard lights. Animals often understand things we can't put into words. Lily was silent for a moment. Do you think Dad would have liked Storm? The question caught Sarah off guard. It was the first time Lily had voluntarily mentioned her father since the accident. I think he would have loved him, Sarah said carefully, her throat tight. Your dad always had a soft spot for anyone who needed help. Lily nodded, seemingly satisfied with the answer. I told Storm about him today. About the accident. Sarah gripped the steering wheel harder, fighting to keep her voice steady. What did you tell him? That it wasn't Dad's fault. That the other car came out of nowhere. Lily's voice wavered slightly. That I miss him so much sometimes I can't breathe. Sarah pulled over to the side of the road, unable to drive through her tears. She unbuckled her seatbelt and gathered Lily into her arms. For the first time since the funeral, her daughter didn't stiffen at the touch. I miss him too, honey, Sarah whispered against Lily's hair. Every single day. They sat like that for several minutes, holding each other as cars occasionally passed by, their headlights briefly illuminating the tableau of grief and healing inside. The next morning, Sarah received a call from Dr. Chun just as they were preparing to leave for their daily visit to Storm. You and Lily need to come right away, Dr. Chun said, her voice tense. There's been a development. What kind of development? Sarah asked, her mind immediately jumping to the worst scenarios. Is Storm just? Come, Dr. Chin interrupted. And hurry. The 15-minute drive to Elaine's farm felt like an eternity. Lily sat rigid beside her, clearly picking up on Sarah's anxiety. He was getting better, Lily said, her voice small. He was getting better, Mom. I know, honey. Let's not assume anything until we get there. As they pulled up to the farm, Sarah was alarmed to see not only Dr. Chen's car, but also a large van with Wellington Equine Specialists emblazoned on the side. Next to it was a truck she didn't recognize, with a man in an expensive suit leaning against it, talking on his phone. Sarah and Lily rushed to the barn, where they found Dr. Chun, Elaine, and two strangers in medical scrubs gathered around Storm's stall. What's happening? Sarah demanded, pulling Lily close to her side protectively. Doctor Chin turned, her expression unreadable. Sarah, Lily, this is Dr. Hammond from Wellington Equine Hospital. He's a specialist in equine orthopedics. The tall man in scrubs nodded in greeting, then turned back to Storm, who was standing, in his stall, his injured leg held gingerly off the ground, but his posture straighter than they'd seen since the accident. And that, Dr. Chun continued, pointing toward the man in the suit outside, is Richard Wellington. As in Wellington Equine Hospital? Sarah asked, confusion evident in her voice. As in Wellington Thoroughbreds, Elaine corrected, a strange edge to her voice. One of the largest racing stables on the West Coast. Before Sarah could process this information, Dr. Hammond straightened up from examining Storm. The leg is healing remarkably well, he announced. Better than I would have expected given Dr. Chin's notes. With proper rehabilitation, he could make close to a full recovery. Sarah felt a surge of relief, quickly followed by suspicion. That's wonderful news. But why is a specialist from Wellington here? And who called you? The barn door opened, and the man in the suit walked in, slipping his phone into his pocket. He had silver hair and the confident bearing of someone used to getting his way. I did, he said, extending his hand to Sarah. Richard Wellington, and I'd like to make you an offer for this horse. $50,000. Richard Wellington's voice filled the barn like a pronouncement from on high. That's my initial offer, though I'm prepared to go higher if necessary. The amount hung in the air, seeming to alter the very atmosphere of the humble barn. Sarah felt her breath catch. $50,000 would cover Lily's therapy, pay off the remainder of their medical bills from the accident, even put a dent in their mortgage. Before the accident, it would have been life-changing money. Now, it felt like a trap. Mr. Wellington, Sarah began cautiously. I appreciate your offer, but Storm isn't actually mine to sell. We have an arrangement with Mr. Henderson already. Taken care of, Wellington interrupted smoothly. I spoke with Henderson this morning. He's agreed to transfer ownership to you, allowing you to sell to me. He smiled, all perfect white teeth and practice charm. Everyone wins. Sarah glanced at Lily, whose face had drained of color. Her daughter stood frozen, one hand still extended towards Storm's neck, fingers trembling. Why this horse? Dr. Chun asked, her usual calm tone edged with suspicion. There are plenty of quarter horses with better bloodlines and no injuries. Wellington turned to her, his expression calculating. Storm has unique genetics. His sire, Thunder's Echo, produced several champion cutting horses. I've been tracking his progeny for my breeding program. Dr. Hammond, the specialist, cleared his throat. With all due respect, Mr. Wellington primarily breeds racehorses, not cutting horses. Wellington's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. My interests are diversifying. Elaine stepped forward, arms crossed. And Storm's injury? You're aware he may never compete again. Dr. Hammond believes he can recover substantially. Besides, I'm interested in his genetics, not his performance. Throughout this exchange, Lily had remained silent, her hand now resting on Storm's neck. The horse had shifted closer to her, his large head hanging over the stall door, ears flicking nervously at the tension in human voices. Mom, Lily said quietly, her voice barely audible. Can I talk to you outside? Sarah nodded, relieved for the excuse to step away from Wellington's intense presence. We'll need some time to consider, she told him, then followed Lily outside. The spring morning was bright, a stark contrast to the emotional storm brewing inside. Lily walked several paces from the barn before turning to face her mother, her blue eyes wide and pleading. We can't sell him, she said simply. Sarah crouched down to her daughter's eye level. Honey, I know you've grown attached to Storm, but it's not about that. Lily interrupted, her voice stronger now. He's getting better here. With us. They'll just use him for breeding, and then what? Put him in a stall somewhere all alone. The words struck Sarah deeply, not just because of their content, but because Lily was speaking, really speaking, with passion and conviction for the first time since James died. The money would help us, Lily, Sarah said gently. We're still figuring things out after Dad would say no, Lily stated firmly, tears welling in her eyes. He always told me living things aren't for selling. Remember the goldfish at the fair? How he got angry at the man giving them as prizes. Sarah did remember. James had been furious at the treatment of the fish, dying in small plastic bags as carnival prizes. He'd ended up buying all the remaining fish and setting up an aquarium in Lily's room to house them properly. It was so like him, impulsive but compassionate. Storm saved me, Lily whispered, a tear sliding down her cheek. Please don't sell him, Mom. Please. Saved her. The words echoed in Sarah's mind. And they were true. Since meeting Storm, Lily had begun speaking again, engaging with the world, processing her grief instead of being consumed by it. Sarah pulled her daughter into a tight hug. We won't sell him, she whispered against Lily's hair. I promise. When they returned to the barn, Wellington was examining Storm with the focused interest of someone appraising a valuable asset. He turned as they entered, his smile already in place. I hope you've had time to consider my generous offer, he said. Sarah stepped forward, her arm around Lily's shoulders. We have, Mr. Wellington, and we're declining. Wellington's smile didn't falter, but his eyes hardened. Perhaps I wasn't clear about the amount. $50,000 for an injured horse is extremely generous. It's not about the money, Sarah replied firmly. Storm isn't for sale. At any price. Wellington's facade cracked slightly, irritation flashing across his features. Ms. Morgan, I understand there may be some emotional attachment, but this is business. That horse has valuable genetics that would benefit my breeding program. And that horse, Sarah countered, has helped my daughter find her voice again after losing her father. So I'm afraid your breeding program will have to look elsewhere. Wellington's jaw tightened. He pulled a business card from his pocket and placed it on a nearby feed bin. My offer stands for 24 hours. After that, he shrugged, the gesture somehow menacing. I do hope you'll reconsider what's truly in everyone's best interest. After Wellington and Dr. Hammond departed, an uneasy silence filled the barn. Dr. Chun was the first to speak. Wellington doesn't take rejection well, she said quietly. He's known for getting what he wants, one way or another. Elaine nodded grimly. I've heard stories about his business practices, not all of them ethical. Sarah felt a chill despite the warm spring day. What do you think he'll do? Dr. Chen shook her head. I don't know, but I'd keep a close eye on Storm for the next few days. That night, Sarah lay awake, Wellington's ominous parting words replaying in her mind. Had she made the right decision? $50,000 would have solved so many problems. But when she thought of Lily's face as she'd said, Storm's saved me, Sarah knew the money didn't matter. She was startled from her thoughts by the sound of Lily's door opening. Footsteps padded down the hall, and Lily appeared in the doorway, her face pale in the moonlight streaming through the window. I can't sleep, Lily whispered. I keep thinking about Storm. What if that man tries to take him? Sarah lifted the covers, inviting Lily to climb in beside her. We won't let that happen, she assured her daughter, though her own doubts lingered. Lily curled against her side, reminiscent of when she was younger. I told Storm about the stars today, she murmured sleepily. About how Dad used to say there, where people go when they die. Do you think that's true? Sarah's throat tightened. I think your dad would like that idea. Storm listened. Lily continued, her voice drifting as sleep began to claim her. He always listens. It's like he knows what's in your heart without you saying it. Sarah stroked her daughter's hair, feeling the steady rhythm of her breathing. As she fell asleep, in the quiet darkness, she made a silent vow. Whatever Wellington might try, whatever obstacles lay ahead, she would protect both Storm and the fragile healing he had brought to their broken family. The future was uncertain, but of one thing Sarah was absolutely sure. Some things were beyond price. The ringing of Sarah's phone jolted them awake at 5:17 a.m. Elaine's voice on the other end was tight with panic. Sarah, you need to come quickly. Someone broke into the barn last night. Storm is gone. Sarah's truck kicked up dust on the country road as she sped toward Elaine's farm, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Beside her, Lily sat rigid, face pale in the early morning light. Maybe he just got out, Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Maybe the door wasn't latched properly. Sarah wished she could nurture that hope, but Wellington's warning echoed in her mind. She had no doubt who was responsible for Storm's disappearance. When they arrived, they found Elaine and Dr. Chin standing outside the barn, the padlock on. The door had been cut clean through, the broken pieces lying in the dirt. I came to check on him at 5, Elaine explained, her voice tight with anger. The barn door was wide open, Storm's stall empty. Have you called the police? Sarah asked. They've already been here. Dr. Chin's expression was grim. They took a report, but without proof of who took him. It was Wellington, Lily said. Suddenly, her voice stronger than Sarah had ever heard it. He's going to hurt Storm. Sarah crouched beside her daughter. We don't know that, honey. I do know, Lily insisted, tears welling in her eyes. Storm was getting better here because he felt safe, because we loved him. Sarah's heart ached at the desperation in Lily's voice. She turned to Dr. Chun. Wellington's Equine Hospital. Where is it? About 40 miles north of here, Dr. Chun replied. But Sarah, you can't just show up there. Wellington has security, lawyers. I don't care, Sarah interrupted. If he took Storm, I'm getting him back. Elaine stepped forward. I'm coming with you. I know some people who might help. The drive to Wellington Equine Hospital felt endless. Lily sat in the back seat of Elaine's truck, clutching a framed picture of her father she'd grabbed from home. A small talisman of strength. Sarah wondered what James would do in this situation. Probably something impulsive but effective. She thought with a sad smile that Wellington's facility was impressive, a sprawling complex of modern buildings and immaculate paddocks. At the security gate, a uniformed guard stepped out. "Can I help you?" he asked, eyeing them suspiciously. Before Sarah could respond, Elaine leaned across from the driver's seat. "We're here to see Richard. Tell him Elaine Peterson is waiting." The guard hesitated, then picked up his phone. After a brief conversation, he waved them through, looking slightly confused. "How did you do that?" Sarah asked as they drove toward the main building. Elaine's mouth curved into a tight smile. "Richard and I have history. He won't be happy to see me, but he'll talk." In the elegant lobby, they were kept waiting for 15 minutes before being escorted to Wellington's office. He looked up from his desk, his polished smile faltering when he saw Elaine. "Miss Peterson," he said coldly. "This is unexpected." "Cut the act, Richard," Elaine replied. "We know you took Storm." Wellington's expression didn't change. "That's a serious accusation without evidence. The horse you're fostering, Henderson's cutting horse, correct, is damaged goods. Why would I want him?" "Because I said no to you," Sarah interjected. "And you're not used to hearing that word." Wellington steepled his fingers, studying them. "Ms. Morgan, I understand you're upset, but breaking into Ms. Peterson's property to steal a horse would be not only illegal, but beneath my dignity." "Then, you won't mind if we look around," Elaine challenged. "Actually, I would. This is private property." The standoff might have continued if not for Lily. She'd been standing silently beside Sarah, but now she stepped forward, her small face set with determination. "Please," she said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "Storm helps me talk about my dad. Before him, I couldn't say anything without feeling like I couldn't breathe. He listens when I tell him about the accident, about how much I miss my father." She held up the framed photograph. "This is him. His name was James. He taught me that helping someone who's hurting is more important than money." Wellington's practiced composure slipped, just slightly. He looked at the photograph, then at Lily's tear-streaked face. "Young lady," he began, but Lily wasn't finished. "Storm was hurt like me," she continued. "But he's getting better, and he's helping me get better too. Please don't take that away." The office fell silent. Wellington's gaze shifted from Lily to the photograph she held, lingering there with an expression Sarah couldn't quite read. After a long moment, he pressed a button on his desk. "Angela, have Miguel bring the new quarter horse to the main barn, please." He released the button and stood. "I think you should come with me." They followed Wellington across the manicured grounds to an immaculate barn. Inside, in the largest stall, stood Storm. His leg was freshly bandaged, and he looked alert, ears pricking forward when he saw them. "Storm," Lily cried, rushing to the stall door. The horse nickered softly, extending his nose to her outstretched hand. Sarah turned to Wellington, anger building. "You had no right." "I know," he interrupted, his voice unexpectedly quiet. "I've spent my life believing that everything has a price, that determination and money can solve any problem." He glanced at Lily, who was whispering to Storm with her forehead pressed against his neck. "I was wrong." Elaine crossed her arms. "So you admit you took him?" Wellington nodded. "I had him transported here early this morning." Dr. Hammond examined him again. "His recovery is remarkable, more so than I would expect from conventional treatment alone." "Because he wants to get better," Lily said without turning around. "He knows people care about him now." Wellington's expression softened. "Perhaps." He turned to Sarah. "The horse is yours. I'll have the paperwork drawn up immediately, transferring ownership from Henderson to you at no cost." Sarah stared at him, suspicion giving way to confusion. Why the change of heart? Wellington hesitated, then pointed to the photograph still clutched in Lily's hand. "I knew James Morgan. Not well, but we served on a charity board together years ago. rebuilding stables for a therapeutic riding program after a fire. A shadow crossed his face. He was principled, uncompromising when it came to doing the right thing. Very unlike me. Sarah felt her breath catch. You knew my husband? When I read about his death in the paper, I didn't connect him to you until just now. Wellington's practiced demeanor had vanished, replaced by something more genuine. James once told me that legacy isn't about bloodlines or genetics. It's about the lives we touch. I didn't understand then. Lily had turned from Storm, listening intently. I think I'm beginning to understand now, Wellington continued. Take the horse home. His healing, and your daughter's, is more valuable than any breeding program. 2 weeks later, Sarah stood beside Elaine's paddock, watching as Lily led Storm in a careful circle. The horse's injured leg was healing well, and though he would always have a slight limp, Dr. Chin was confident he would eventually be sound enough to ride. Looking good, you two, Sarah called. Lily beamed, her face alight with a joy that had been absent for so long. He's barely limping today, Lily replied, patting Storm's neck. Dr. Chun says we can try some strengthening exercises next week. Sarah nodded, marveling at the transformation in her daughter. The silent, withdrawn child of 3 months ago was gone, replaced by a girl who chattered excitedly about Storm's progress, who'd started making plans again, who'd hung a star chart on her bedroom ceiling because Dad would want me to keep learning about space. Grief hadn't disappeared. There were still nights when Lily cried for her father, still mornings when the absence of James's laughter over breakfast felt like a physical wound. But now those moments were balanced with hope, with forward momentum. If reading her thoughts, Elaine appeared beside her, offering a mug of coffee. They've both come a long way. Sarah accepted the mug gratefully. Thanks to you. I don't know how we'll ever repay you for everything. Elaine waved away the gratitude. This old farm needed some life in it. Besides, she added with a smile, Lily's the best student I've had in years. That mind of hers is extraordinary. They watched as Lily guided Storm toward a small obstacle course Elaine had set up, just ground poles for now, nothing that would strain his healing leg. Wellington called yesterday, Sarah said after a moment. He's funding a therapeutic riding program at the community center. Asked if Lily might want to volunteer once Storm is fully recovered. Elaine raised an eyebrow. Redemption comes in unexpected packages. So does healing, Sarah replied softly that I in the paddock. Lily had stopped to stroke Storm's face, whispering something in his ear. The horse lowered his head, as if listening intently to a secret only they shared. Sarah thought about the day she'd found Lily sitting beside this wounded horse, two silent souls recognizing something in each other that no one else could see. She thought about how words had returned, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence, pouring out in a stream of grief and memory and hope. Mom, watch, Lily called, her voice strong and clear as she guided Storm over a ground pole. Pride shone in her eyes as the horse carefully navigated the obstacle, placing his hooves with deliberate precision. I'm watching, Sarah called back, her heart full, and she was watching her daughter find her voice again, watching a broken horse heal alongside a broken child, watching the future unfold step by careful step, whispering its own promises of possibility.